And that's the start of the trip right there. Looks all calm and pretty, but it's going to be a rough one.
She has no master and no God, except for the rapids she keeps to remind us that the salmon is a red-headed woman, but she is no lady. This famous quote describing the Salmon River was coined by author and wilderness pioneer Frances Zahn Miller. She lived on the river at Campbell's Ferry, Idaho, from 1940 through 1986. Getting a private permit to raft the Middle Fork of the Salmon River in the Frank Church Wilderness is incredibly difficult. You are looking at a success rate of less than 2%. Only about 350 to 360 prime season launch permits are issued through the lottery, competing against nearly 20,000 applicants. Securing a private permit for the River of No Return section of the Main Salmon River is highly competitive, with peak summer odds often dropping to around 1%. Given that you can only apply for one application per person per river lottery, it is almost impossible to have two people pull a permit for both the Middle Fork and the Main at the same time. Well, I guess we bottled lightning because that is exactly what happened. While I did not know most of the people on this trip when we started, we bonded very quickly, as you do when you are faced with such wild adversity. From broken oar towers to broken bones. On day one, just a few miles downstream, Casey was launched out of the boat in a perfect backflip. I found myself alone on the boat in the middle of the roaring rapids, tossing me around like she was toying with me. I spotted Casey and yanked him back into the boat. Without hesitation, he was back on the oars, and we kept on. On day two, we slammed into a large rock wall that capsized the boat. Luckily, we had a few boats downstream that were able to collect what little gear we lost. As I came floating by, toes up and on my back, Cole was quick and accurate with a 75-foot-long throw bag that allowed me to secure myself on the shore. It was at this moment that I saw Casey riding on top of the upside-down boat like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. There was a very small area about a quarter-mile downstream that we were able to all gather till we could make repairs, recollect our gear, and flip the boat back over. We were not in an eddy, as the water was swirling with a very fast-moving current that was trying to pull us all downstream. We used every single available line that we had in our group to secure ourselves and our equipment, all while attempting to flip the boat back over. Honestly, we got lucky because it had been several miles without anywhere to pull over prior, and we soon found out that there was no real spot to pull over downstream for what seemed like several more miles once we got back on the water. With borrowed oar locks, borrowed oars, and several other items that our river mates lent to us, we were on our way once again. Needless to say, this would not be the last time that we had to repair the oar locks, nor was it the last time that we would be humbled by the raging river. We also had one of our catarafts rip a 10-foot-long gash in the side of the pontoon. Once again, the crew pulled all of their resources together, and they had her back on the river in no time. Middle Fork of the Salmon River, often called the crown jewel of American whitewater, this 100-mile stretch drops 3,000 feet through the Frank Church River of No Return wilderness. It features over 100 rapids and stunning alpine scenery, earning it a reputation as one of the best wilderness trips in the world. The Middle Fork of the Salmon River is consistently ranked among the best multi-day river trips globally. It spans 100 miles of continuous wilderness with no roads or cell service. Main Salmon River. Directly downstream from the Middle Fork lies the River of No Return. This multi-day wilderness float travels nearly 80 miles through the second deepest gorge in North America, featuring big sandy beaches and Class 3 to 4 rapids. For about 180 miles, the canyon is more than 1 mile or 5,280 feet deep.
You gotta be fucking
The
kidding
deepest
me.
part of the Salmon River Canyon features roughly 7,000 feet of vertical relief, making it one of the deepest gorges in North America and deeper than the Grand Canyon. This section is known
like
for its
150
massive,
feet
approachable,
long?
big water rapids and rich history. The absolute craziest time to run the middle fork of the Salmon River is June. During this peak snowmelt season, the river swells into a massive, fast, and boisterous whitewater extravaganza with Class 3-4 rapids and icy, high-energy currents suited for experienced rafters. Early to mid-June is the high water due to the snowmelt runoff. This is the wildest and most intense flow of the season. The river moves incredibly fast with punchy hydraulics, massive waves, and cold temperatures. Only experienced boaters or guided trips are advised to attempt this. Idaho's Salmon River system is a legendary wilderness destination. The Middle Fork and Main Salmon offer nearly 200 miles of unbroken, dam-free whitewater, hot springs, and abundant wildlife, flowing through the largest contiguous roadless wilderness in the lower 48. The Middle Fork Salmon River features over 100 named rapids, most fluctuating between technical Class 3 and Class 4, depending on the water level. Because water flows change rapidly depending on the season, exact classifications can shift. The most notable rapid names on the Middle Fork: Sulphur, Hell's Half Mile, Velvet, Powerhouse, Pistol, Marble, Tappan, Haystack, Bernard, Waterfall, Porcupine, Red Side Weber, Rubber, Hancock, and House of Rocks. From low water levels to high water levels, the extreme rapid conditions change drastically from rock-strewn, high-precision technical obstacle courses to a relentless, freezing, high-velocity highway of massive wave trains and lethal hole hazards. Because there are no dams to regulate the flow, seasonal snowmelt transforms the exact same coordinates from a slow, grinding battle against granite to a fast-moving, high-stakes test of raw power and rowing experience. The primary differences in rapid dynamics between these two hydrological extremes dictate how a boater must approach the river. We launched at high water in late May and went through the first week of June, which meant our conditions were continuous, swift, and had massive wave trains. At high water, you risk violent flips, long swims, and hypothermia. Due to the fast-moving highway, most of the eddies that were there at low water have been washed out. This powerful momentum creates strong lateral pushes that require proactive bracing. At the beginning of the trip, I took words like eddy, strainer, log jam, pour over, sieve, hole, boil, sleeper, wave train, hydraulics, and getting pinned as just some fancy river lingo. However, 200-plus miles later, I can assure you that each one of those in their own respective way heighten my senses, which bring a healthy level of concern and sometimes even fear. Don't let this fool you. Those feelings are a good thing. In fact, it is what makes the difference between life and death. Complacency, ego, and arrogance are no match for the forces of nature. If you ever get the hankering for some humble pie, the Middle Fork at high water will dish out as much as you can take. Upon our launch, the river gauge showed a height of 5 feet 2 inches and a discharge rate of 5,710 CFS, which meant that the Middle Fork of the Salmon River was officially in high water conditions, transforming into a swift, relentless, and high-consequence Class 4+ whitewater environment. A discharge rate of 5,710 CFS means that 5,710 cubic feet of water are flowing past a specific point of the river every single second. To visualize this volume, imagine a cube of water measuring 1 foot on all sides, roughly the size of a basketball. At this rate, 5,710 of these cubes rush by every second. Simply put, this means that there is a continuous flow of rapids that merge into one another seamlessly. There are fewer eddies, which means fewer places to rest or scout for safety. There are violent hydraulics. Waves grow massive, and holes retain boats aggressively. The water is freezing from the snowmelt. Flipping over can often result in life-threatening swims. At high water, Velvet Falls forms a massive, river-wide flipping hole. Middle Powerhouse pushes boats violently toward the bottom wall. Pistol Creek becomes an explosive, fast-moving wave train. Murph's Hole features a notorious boat flipper hole on the right. Tappan Falls creates a heavy, surging hydraulic drop. While exact historical fatality records across all decades are not centrally published, it is well known that the Middle Fork and the Main Salmon River claim lives every decade. Because these rivers feature remote, high-consequence rapids, dozens of fatalities have been recorded over the last century. The deadliest week on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River occurred in June of 1970. Broadcast journalist Tom Brokaw was part of a commercial trip during this notorious week. His boat overturned in the treacherous Redside Weber Rapids, pitching him into the raging current. While he and others managed to swim to shore, the disaster claimed the lives of his close friend and a river guide. The Middle Fork offers over 100 miles of free-flowing, rocky rapids with no dams to control the water levels. On our third day, we were in a relatively calmer area than we had been in up to this point. Deep in a canyon with a snow-lined ridge behind us, the weather began to change rather quickly. Before we knew it, we were into the middle of a downpour, with thunder and lightning all around us. There were 2 bald eagles flying overhead, soaring effortlessly through the air in search of prey. This was truly one of the most unforgettable moments of the trip. At this point, we had been without cell phones and technology for several days, so we were finally able to truly unplug from the daily chaos of life. We were all in the moment, present in nature and appreciating our surroundings. As the storm passed us by, it was as if you could feel the air move from Mother Nature as she walked right by us. At the end of our Middle Fork journey, half of the crew left at the Cash Bar takeout, while the rest of us continued on down the river of no return. It was not long after we left Cash Bar that a lateral bitch slapped me right out of the boat. It was like Mother Nature knew that I let my guard down for just a split second. This time, Casey was the one pulling me into the boat. While I had my dry suit on, it was not on properly. The arms were tied around my waist. Other zippers were all open. I was drying out from the last flip out of the boat that I took. Needless to say, when I got knocked out of the boat, my dry suit filled with water. And no matter how hard I tried to come up, the weight was pulling me down. I remember thinking that the Main Salmon was not nearly as warm as I heard it might be. After 10 days and over 200 miles of whitewater rafting down the Middle Fork and the Main Salmon, our trip had come to an end. I remember pulling up to the sandbar and not wanting to get out off the boat. I was so sad that it had come to an end. All the beauty and quietness that surrounded us at every moment, as soon to be replaced with technology and noise. I remember seeing cars and people that brought a feeling of melancholy. While I only spent 5 or 10 days with the people on this trip, respectively, the friendships and bonds will last forever. The broken bones will heal, but the memories will always remain.